Welcome to Freedom Window. We're going to talk about Fox News polling and whether or not it's harder on the president and other polls. Are they too hard on Trump? But before I do that, I want to encourage you to like this video. Also, if you like the channel, please remember to subscribe. Now, let's talk about Fox News. Well, we know what President Trump thinks of Fox News. He wrote back in September, one of the worst polls in 2016 was the Fox News poll. They were so ridiculously wrong. Fox said they were going to change pollsters, but they didn't. They totally oversampled Democrats to a point that a child could see what is going on. Rasmussen, which was accurate at 52%. So, Los Angeles Times did a piece on the Fox News polling unit. I thought that would be relevant to the discussion. They are just honest numbers, says veteran Democrat pollster Joe Benenson, chief executive of Benenson Strategy Group in New York. Trump doesn't like them because they are honest numbers, and they are horrible for him. So there we have a Democratic pollster. He believes the numbers, and he acknowledges they're terrible for the president. The even-handedness of the operation got the backing of Nate Silver, the political research guru who oversees the ABC News-owned website 538. He gave the Fox News poll an A rating based on accuracy and methodology in a report card of pollsters he issued in May 2018. So now we have two Democrats. Nate Silver is undoubtedly a Democrat. He is definitely a liberal, and his website definitely leans left. There's no question about that. We have the endorsement of two liberal pollsters or poll analysts of the Fox News polling unit. Dana Blanton, vice president of public opinion research at Fox News, has overseen polling at the network since it launched in 1996. Not long after earning a master's in business administration from George Washington University. According to former colleagues, she is known for being methodical and inscrutable, offering no hint of her own political views. Since 2011, Blanton has used a bipartisan team to gather data for Fox News. Beacon Research President Chris Anderson, a Democrat, and Darren Shaw, a Republican, of Shaw and Company Research. The two-party setup is similar to how the NBC Wall Street Journal poll is conducted. Both Anderson and Shaw work on the decision desk for Fox on election nights. So, to compare it to the NBC Wall Street Journal operation is not good. That is also a organization that leans heavily toward the Democrats. So, we have Nate Silver endorsing it. We have them giving him an A on his website. And we have this Democrat pollster Joe Benenson. He loves it. Loves the Fox News poll. So it's reasonable to ask, does it lean toward the Democrats? So I went to Nate Silver's website just to look into more of his assessment of what he thought of Fox News. Well, he gives them an A. You'll see here, this is from his website. He gives them an A. However, you'll note to the right, D plus 1/4. That is the mean reverted bias. That is the average that this poll leans toward Democrats compared to the average of all other polls. So it is a very left-leaning poll. But you might say, oh, it's only a 1.5. Let's look at the overall spectrum here. Here we have the full spectrum of polls rated by 538. Now, as you can see, there are hundreds of polls. And on the right side are the polls that are most friendly to Republicans, and on the left side are the ones that are most friendly to Democrats. And as you can see, where the red arrow is, that indicates the place for the Fox News pollster. It is very, very far toward the Democratic side. So I thought, why not look into these polls myself? Let me do my own research. So I looked at all of the polls beginning in this election cycle, late 2019, running until the end of September of 2020. And I compared Fox News polls to all of the other polls to determine, are they really that far toward the Democratic side? Well, if you look at this chart, these are all the polls done in Pennsylvania, listed on the Real Clear Politics website. I didn't want to just throw in any poll. Real Clear Politics does have some standards. They try to get good polls, although I will say the majority of their polls lean toward Democrats, which means that if Fox News is to the left of this group, that's really bad. So Pennsylvania, Fox News polls are represented by the blue squares, and every other poll is represented by the orange diamonds. As you can see, The blue squares are very high, which means they're very favorable toward the Democrats and very far from the zero or where candidates are tied. On average, in Pennsylvania, the Fox News polls were 3% higher for Biden than all of the other polls averaged. There's the chart, just indicating the margin. In Ohio, Fox News did 3 polls in this period, and they were on average 1.09% higher than all of the other polls averaged. Nevada, Fox News, 4 polls, on average 4.1% higher than the poll average, as indicated by Real Clear Politics. Wisconsin, many polls there. Fox News did have Biden ahead by only 5 at one point in this period. But as you can see from the rest of the year, the other 3 polls were very high leads for Biden, putting them 3% higher for Biden than the rest of the polls on average. Arizona, many polls here. Fox News comes in 3.2% higher for Biden than the other polls on average. North Carolina, again, Fox News is toward the pro-Democratic side, a little less this time. They are only 1.1% higher than all of the other polls on average. Michigan, Fox is 1.6% higher than all of the other polls on average. Minnesota, only one poll here that in that period Fox News did, but it was 4.6% higher for Democrats than all of the other polls on average. And here we have the national polls done in that period. Fox News clearly sits to the Democratic side of things, putting them on average 1.1% higher than the poll average. But you have to remember, this poll average includes polls like the Reuters Ipsos poll, and the CNN poll, and the New York Times poll, Washington Post, ABC Washington Post. These polls absolutely lean heavily Democratic. And they're in this average. Well, the Fox News polls are more Democratic than the average of all the polls. So it's fair to conclude, yes, Fox News polls do lean heavily toward the Democrats. The chart. Nigel Farage of Brexit fame recently said, "I think that polling is often used by the establishment as a way of disincentivizing the other side to go out and vote." Farage said on Just the News AM television show. The morning of Brexit, there was a poll released that said Remain and the EU were 10 points ahead. And it was done very simply to say to potential Leave voters, you know what, if it's raining, don't bother to get out and go to the local school and vote because you're going to lose anyway. That's the entire idea of a suppression poll. I'll note that Nate Silver, the one who gave Fox News an A, recently issued a poll in Wisconsin showing Joe Biden up by 17 points. That is a margin that is impossible to defend. There is no way that Joe Biden is up by double digits, let alone 17 points. There clearly is something going on. But now that we're coming down to the end of this election period, we'll see what Fox News issues as its final poll over the coming days. That's why I'm releasing this video today. Just to give everyone a clear picture that Fox News is not playing it straight, at least based on the evidence. And the question arises, why? Well, if there is an effort to depress Republican turnout, how better to do that than to do it through Fox News polling? Because this is where many conservatives, particularly many older conservatives, get their politics from Fox News. And if they see a poll from Fox News saying, hey, your guy doesn't have a chance, it just may lead some of them to stay home. And in an election that many believe is very close, that may be just enough to get Biden over the top. So let's see where Fox News falls in their final poll and how it compares to the final results. Please like, subscribe, and share.